The all-new Hot 97.7. Michael J Mike Moraitis hanging out with y'all right down the line. Thank you guys so much for coming in, hanging out with us on a Sunday morning. I know it's early, but hey, we got the goods, so why would you be anywhere else, right?
Exactly. I mean, where else would you rather be other than church?
Yeah. Got to make sure. Yeah, we got to throw that in there. All right down the line, brought to you by W Energy Drink. Get over to w.gg and use promo code Michael J Radio. Get 10% off. I'm telling you, use this stuff, y'all. It's great. I use it twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Nice little pick-me-up. No calories, no sugar, no fillers, no artificial colors, and it's jitterless. It does not give you the jitters. It's great stuff. Go check it out. W.gg. Use promo code Michael J Radio, and you'll get 10% off. All right. Tommy Brady. I guess you can't use the New England accent anymore because, he's in Tampa. So, Tom Brady, this guy's 45, Mike, right? We talked about this last week. Face looking a little withdrawn. Kind of creeped me out a little bit. It was a little Skeletor-ish for some reason. But
he's had some work done, I think. Just my opinion.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you, I think years ago, if you go back, now I saw this, it's so funny, because I saw this online where they showed his progression, like that disturbing picture of him during the camps, where he had the piece of paper with his number on it, and he was like all hunched over. So they have that picture of his face progressed all the way until now. That man has definitely had some work done.
100%. He looks younger than he did in that picture.
He does.
Yeah.
It's like, look, bro. He's a nice looking guy, but he became a really nice looking guy due to a little bit of, the old nip tuck, if you will. You say what you want. But hey, he's like a really good house. He had good bones. So they worked with that. You know what I mean? So But anyway, he is up there. He is 45. And look, and in football years, of course, he's not an old guy, but in football years, he's a daggone dinosaur, right? But apparently, they're finally giving him that veteran treatment that so many other quarterbacks in the past, like Brett Favre and John Elway and all these guys got. The Buccaneers quarterback is now going to be taking off Wednesdays, and it's going to be considered his rest day, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question. Because of the way he looked last week, and I'll be honest, he looked like he was struggling a little bit. And when we talk about this upcoming game against the Saints, you and I both know that Saints defense, for some reason, has his number and has had his number. I don't know if we're witnessing what we witnessed with Brett Favre, because I wish I could remember the team, but I remember watching Brett Favre in front of my eyes, completely hitting that wall, not hitting receivers, getting sacked, not having the wherewithal to be the Brett Favre that we knew. It was weird. It was like the week prior, he played okay, he played pretty good, struggled a little bit. That next week, he just hit that proverbial old man quarterback wall. Are we about to see Tom Brady hit that proverbial wall?
No, I'm throwing week one out again. And by the way, and as far as football age is concerned, he's not a dinosaur. He's the Big Bang. I mean, that's how old he is. I mean, it's unbelievable he's playing at 45. So I know. Wild. But no, I mean, I'm throwing week one out again. No preseason play. Missed a lot of training camp with his family issues or whatever. I'm not ready to proclaim him, about to hit the wall. I think the only thing, honestly, I think that can stop him this year is Giselle. I think she's the best defense, because if, he has those issues off the field, maybe they impact him on the field, and things aren't going that great at home. These guys are human. It happens. And I'm not to say that will happen, but that's really the only thing I fear with Brady. The offensive line too, and those guys dropping like flies, but I think Brady's going to be fine as long as that team stays healthy and he stays healthy. yeah, I'm gonna have to see more before I start writing off, a guy who's played until he's 45 like a freak.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what happens, man, when you eat like tree bark and rice and,
Yeah,
leaves,
TB12, TB12, he's chomping on trees out there.
eating tree bark and stuff. So for me, I'm going to disagree with you. And I'll tell you why. The one thing that I believe is someone you just mentioned, Giselle. When that whole story broke about how they're living separately, and you and I were trying to speculate last week, what could this possible off the field issue truly be? It's obviously his marriage, right? She had no idea that he even came out of retirement. She didn't even know.
Yep.
Could you imagine picking up your phone and finding out that your spouse decided to go back to work after saying, I'm done?
Yeah, and then think about how mad she is. She thought she had a set babysitter for the next year, and now she doesn't. So, she does her international things. She goes all
Right.
over the place. She's jet setting. She's got things to do.
Hey,
And now she lost her primary babysitter. I hope they can afford another one.
yeah, I'm sure they're good. But,
Yeah.
It's like Stephen A said. She was making money before. She's still making money. It's not like and I understand it. You have to when they got married, they got together, whatever. You know what you're getting into. You know what you're getting into. The guys, and even at the time, not being the GOAT, if you will, but now you're at a point where she sat around, had the kids, raised them. She's kind of did her part, right, so to speak. When he said, I'm out, he should have stayed out.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he didn't discuss it with her is where I think a lot of, obviously, the issues stemmed from. And, 22 years, it's a long time, man. This is a long time for her to be like, all right, can I not have to worry about you being gone now? And I'm going to tell you, whether people want to believe this or not, it might not be so much that he hits the wall, but I think he bumps up against the wall because of what's going on in his personal life. I think we're going to see bits of decline. We saw it last week. At least I know I did. He just didn't seem like he was as sharp as we're used to seeing him. And I get it. He's 45 freaking years old. It's an anomaly. You don't see that. It's unheard of. And I give him a look. I was the biggest beat up Tom Brady guy on the planet. Cheaters, this, that. Oh, he does it. Couldn't stand the guy. He hit that 5th Super Bowl, and I was kind of like, I got to stop beating this guy up. I got to take it for what it is. And regardless of past indiscretions, of whatever that team, whatever he did, look, we can argue it all till we're blue in the face. At the end of the day, the guy's got more Super Bowl wins. He's got more yards. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play this game. But I think at some point you have to stop and evaluate what's going on around you. There are even rumors that people are saying that if this gets any worse, could Tom Brady walk from this season? Because what happens, think about this for 2 seconds, Mike. What happens if Giselle comes up to him and says, look, either you leave football or I'm leaving you? What are you going to do?
Yeah, he's going to leave football. I think he would, But I mean, I don't understand why he came back in the first place. I mean, you had proven literally everything. The last thing left to prove was, can Tom Brady win a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick? Well, he did it.
Yep.
And I just don't understand why. I mean, I get it. Athletes have a tough time walking away from football. This only lasts for a certain amount of time. You only have a certain amount of years. In Tom Brady's case, he's got a lot more than the average player does. You had nothing left to prove. Why even come back? I just didn't get that in the first place. I get back coming back the year after the Super Bowl. Maybe you can win another, windows very wide open to win another.
Sure.
But this year in particular, I expected him to retire. And I was shocked when he came back. Like I just didn't understand what is your motivation for coming back. And, I still don't understand it, to be honest with you.
I don't think he's ever really even talked about it. I don't think he's ever given us a soundbite on saying, well, the reason I decided to come back was this. At
Right.
least not that I'm aware of.
Right. And I hate even calling it come back because he's
Right.
never until you're retired through like week 1. I don't consider it a comeback. If you retire and then come back and all in the span of from the last season, in between into week 1,
Right.
that's not a comeback. You didn't retire. You've got to
Yeah.
like miss some games first before we consider it a comeback. That bothers me so much when we hear people say that. Sorry,
Right.
but it's just like it's not a comeback. He didn't go anywhere. If he
That's
had
right.
left for a year and then came, Michael Jordan's was a comeback. You know what I
Correct.
mean? So, but yeah, I just the whole situation's very odd. I think he just should have hung him up. He doesn't want to be that guy who hung around too long. And
Right.
obviously him hitting the wall, although I don't think I'm ready to say that, you run the risk even more now at the age of 45 that you're going to hit that wall. It has to happen. It just has to.
I agree. All right, some thoughts on some last week's games. Let's start with the Steelers Bengals. Of course, I talked about Joe Burrow, even though, coming off his little appendectomy and really not looking all that well, the guy still threw the ball 53 times for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns. And at the end of the day, being a Steeler fan, sometimes I got to take my Steeler hat off and think logically here. I will say this. For as many turnovers and interceptions that went on from that Cincinnati Bengal offense, the fact that the Steelers had to struggle so much to get that win is concerning. Obviously, that offense did not look all that great. Trubisky started off pretty good, had his issues, had a little bit of issues with that offensive line trying to get, Najee Harris to break free. But at the end of the day, after missed field goal after missed field goal, which was an amazing game, by the way.
Yeah.
Hated to see TJ Watt go down. Hopefully he'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll keep you guys posted on that. But what did you take out of that game?
Not much. The Steelers are not going to be very good this year. They tried their hardest to give that game away as much as they could. The Bengals were just terrible. Burrow, threw for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns, 4 picks though. Looked like a shell of himself. I do not expect the Bengals to play that poorly all year. But you got to give credit to the Steelers defense also. I mean, every year the Steelers bring it on defense. Doesn't matter what's going on under center or anywhere else on the team. Every year they bring it. And they brought it again. 7 sacks on Burrow. That's the way you're going to beat them. And 4 turnovers. I mean, I'm not worried about the Bengals. I've got to see them do that again before I get concerned. I think they'll be fine. Jamar Chase is an absolute rock star. I mean, the man is unstoppable. Right up there with, I think Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the league. Jamar Chase is right there with him. Didn't love what I saw out of Trubisky. He was okay. He was serviceable. That's about what you're going to expect out of him. Bengals defense is a little underrated. The loss of TJ Watt is enormous. They're lucky they didn't lose him for the whole year. Usually torn pec, you're done. So obviously he didn't tear it as badly as some other guys have in years past that they've been forced to miss the rest of the season. But my takeaway is Bengals are going to be better. They won't be that bad all year. And the Steelers got extremely lucky to get out of there with a win because, again, you're not going to see the Bengals play that poorly that often the way they did in week 1. So Steelers, they'll be lucky if they, grab a wild card spot this year.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I was all in with you. I didn't think that, I didn't see the Steelers really vying for a playoff spot, between Baltimore and Cincinnati. I figured they would.
I think if you put the Steelers in a like the AFC South, let's say, which is a much less strong division, I think they have a shot to actually even win that division or to compete. At least compete for it. I don't see the same thing in the AFC North.
Right, it's just tough. It's such a tough division, and I thought that would be, those would be the two. But I will say this: after Ravens played okay. It was they beat the Jets, but still. If TJ Watt wouldn't have gotten hurt, I would have honestly came on this show today and been like, the Steelers have a really good shot at making the playoffs right now because of that defense. And you can shore up, you can figure out and fix some of those offensive issues by what? I'll say it because I'm a Steeler fan and I know everybody's going to disagree with me. But I mean, maybe you bring the kid in, give Trubisky this week, play New England, see what happens. If he kind of looks as bad as he did against Cincinnati, my thought process is they lose this game against New England, which they shouldn't, but they might. If they lose this game against New England, my opinion, you bring the kid in. Where are you at with bringing the kid in?
I think you keep rolling with Trubisky until he's absolutely dreadful, or you start losing games. We also have to remember, Steelers didn't help him out too much offensively. I mean, the rushing attack, 75 yards, 3.4 yards per carry. Najee Harris was shut down.
Yep.
Chase Claypool was your leading rusher last
Yep.
week. So they've got to do more to help Trubisky. Again, I think the rushing attack isn't going to be that bad all year. Obviously, concerns a little bit about the offensive line. But I think if you keep winning games with Trubisky, you've got to stick with them, because I
Sure.
think as far as the rest of the team is concerned, you got a lot of veteran guys on that team, and you switch after Trubisky's winning games. If you switch, now the guys are kind of like, well, why the hell are we doing this? We were just winning. Why would
Right.
you go to the kid? Unless they really know that he is that much better than Trubisky. And I don't think off the bat, I think eventually he will be better than
Oh, yeah.
Trubisky, but off the bat, you can't expect him to be much better, if at all, than what they currently have right now. So if you keep winning games, you stick with Mitch. That's where I'm at with that.
That I agree. If you're winning, you don't fix what's not broken.
Right.
Even if we're limping into these wins and they're winning by 3 points, 2 points, as long as there's W's in those win columns, you stick with the hot hand. And Mike Tomlin knows that, and he's said it for the many years that he's been in Pittsburgh. But I think if they start losing and it starts to become norm, and it just seems like Mitch can't shake the losing side of it, I definitely think you got to bring the kid in. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens after this New England game. I'm very, very interested and kind of excited to see what they can do without TJ Watt. If Mitchell can come back and kind of shake off week one jitters and, maybe perform a little bit better than he did against Cincinnati. Broncos, Seahawks. Seahawks win this game 17-16.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk. Next game. No comment. No comment, all right? Please. I told everybody to start their receiver, the punter, the water boy, and then Nathaniel Hackett. What the hell are you thinking, brother?
Dude.
Oh, my God.
First of all, I'm just going to say this. I have not, now I've covered the Broncos for a few years when I was out in Denver. Brandon McManus is such a nice guy, great competitor. I'll be honest with you. The fact that he is still on that Denver Bronco team is that it's not because he's not a good kicker, just because of the way that front office operates.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually shocked he's still there with the way they discard talented players. However, he is not making a 60. Look, Stephen A was like, oh, well, if they were a mile high, maybe. No. I don't care if they were on top of Kilimanjaro playing this game
Right.
with zero air, and all he would have had to do was pluck the ball and it would have went. No. There was no reason, no matter where, Mexico City, it wouldn't have mattered where you were playing that game. Brandon McManus had no business being on that field. Period. Not a discussion, not an argument. It's a fact. He had no business being there. You have Russell Wilson, $256 million you just paid this guy. You brought him over here because he does things on 4th and 5. And you bring out McManus? It is no disparage towards Brandon. Brandon, you're a great guy, and I think you're a phenomenal player. I am not beating you up, buddy. I got mad respect for you, but you had no business being out there. If the coach would have said, let's go, I'd have been like, whoa, what? If I was Brandon McManus, I might have almost questioned Nathaniel Hackett and been like, Coach, you sure? We do have Russell Wilson. Did you forget that?
Yeah, I mean it's one of the worst coaching decisions I have ever seen in professional sports history. And I've seen, we've all seen bad ones over the years.
Oh
This
God.
was one of the worst.
Yep.
I don't care if you have Geno Smith under center, 4th and 5, and you're facing either a 4th and 5 or a 64-yard field goal. I'm going for that 4th and 5. Anything past 60 yards, I'm not attempting. It's just not. And McManus has a pretty good leg. So,
He
I mean,
does.
with a little wind, he could probably make that kick. And he wasn't that far off, to be honest with you, regardless. I don't care who's kicking, who's at quarterback. You don't make that decision. That was Nathaniel Hackett, the moment getting too big for him. Probably had the analytics nerds in his head. Oh, you got a better shot to make this than you do the 4th and garbage. It's a terrible decision. It's one of the worst I've ever seen. And like you said, you put all that money, all those picks into getting Russell Wilson, signing Russell Wilson, and then you don't put the ball in his hands on a 4th and 5. When Wilson heard, Hackett call McManus's name on the sideline, Wilson was probably, that's not how you say Russell Wilson.
Sure.
Like what the hell are we
You're
doing here?
pronouncing my name wrong.
There's Yeah, every guy on that team thought that was an absolutely insane
Of
idea.
course.
They just are not going to say it, obviously. But the one shining thing about the whole situation was Hackett coming out on Tuesday and saying, I messed up, and admitting that that was the wrong play. Coaches don't always come out and do that.
True.
They'll kind of try to talk around it and trying to tell you that they messed up without saying it directly.
Correct.
Hackett realizes he
He
messed
owned it.
up. Right. And he's a good coach. He's from a good coaching family. I think he's going to learn from that mistake and be much better moving forward. I'm not down on the Broncos at all after that game. Again, week 1, nonsense. And Hackett's realization that he messed up is probably the biggest thing to take from all of that.
Absolutely. Look, he knew that he made a mistake. And I think that it spiraled out of control via the media, via online, everywhere, in his own front office.
Yep.
I think he kind of didn't have any other choice but to do that.
KTOH on 97.7 FM radio is owned by Alexander Broadcasting Corporation, Fresno, California.
And I think that he did the right thing. I absolutely think he did the right thing, and I applaud him for it. However, he better do better, or that team is going to have issues. Or Russell Wilson is going to have to take matters into his own hands. We'll have to see a movie script where, they're trying to get him off the field, and he's like, stay back there. Stay there.
Right. And this is a team, listen, their window is right now. So if they have a rough year, they miss the playoffs or, worse, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nathaniel Hackett one and done because this team can't afford coaching mistakes like that. You can't afford to have a coach who it's hard enough to win in the NFL. But when you have your coach kicking 64-yard field goals, that makes it a hell of a lot more difficult. And they can't afford that, So if they don't make the playoffs this year, it would not shock me to see Hackett one and done. I think that's the kind of tightrope he's walking. And as you said, the Broncos are not afraid to get rid of good players. So if they have a bad coach,
and they don't have a problem dumping coaches either.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something the franchise does. They're almost Patriots like, where they'll just part with a guy. They don't care what the heck he's done in the past. It's now, you know what I mean? And even if those guys are still at high in their game, they'll still part ways with them. So
it's definitely a downfall that franchise has, and I have seen it up close and personal for a couple years. I am going to say this before we move on to your Titans. Geno Smith looked really, really good and impressive in that first half. And I'm glad he got that feeling, that high. He got to beat them in their house, blah, blah, blah. But that second half was atrocious. And that's why I said earlier, at the end of the day, Seattle Seahawks fans, calm down. Geno Smith's still going to be Geno Smith, which is unpredictable, not reliable, and not consistent. He is an amazing athlete. He's got great feet. He scrambles unbelievable. But for some reason, Geno has always had an issue with closing the deal. Now, granted, they got it done. But honestly, Nathaniel Hackett gave them that freaking win, not Geno Smith.
Yeah, they didn't score a single point in the second half. I mean, it speaks for itself. Denver lost that game more than Seattle won it.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. I want to give Seattle all the credit. They came out. They looked fantastic in the first half.
Woo.
They played really, really well. They had no business holding the Broncos to 16 points. And if Nathaniel Hackett doesn't make that boneheaded decision, we're talking differently today.
Right.
So, yeah, the Seahawks are going to be what we expected them to be. That will be probably the best half of football they play all year. And Geno Smith is not getting any better. And as I referenced before, his inability or just lack of desire or whatever to step up in the pocket. He just does not step up in the pocket. There were 5 or 6 times where I'm not even a Seahawks fan. And I'm yelling at the screen, step up. I was starting the Broncos defense in fantasy against the Seahawks, and I'm yelling at him to step up. That's how bad it is. Geno still has not improved from where he was years ago. I was really happy for him. I was really happy that he kind of got that a little bit of a redemption win. He had a great line. What did he say? People wrote me off, but I didn't write back. You know, he was all pumped up and everything.
That was a good quote.
Yeah, great quote. But, you know, if you're expecting that Geno's going to somehow find what he hasn't found thus far in his career this year, and he's going to take the Seahawks to a playoff, no.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Just no.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, another game. We got to talk about your boys. Giants, Titans. Giants squeak out the win, 21-20. Saquon Barkley is back. That's all I can say about that game. Now, this is what you do. This is what you do with a guy that you pay a crap ton of money to, that you bring over to be that playmaker, that guy that we say, yo, when we need a play, this is why you're here. This is why we pay you. This is the reason that you're such a focal point of our offense or for our team, period. And Saquon Barkley finally had that moment again that he hasn't had in quite some time due to injuries and everything else. 164 yards this animal had with 18 carries. He was an absolute beast that day. Ryan Tannehill, 266 and 2 touchdowns. Mike, these are your boys that you cover over on Titans Wire for USA Today. What happened?
Just couldn't sustain in the second half. They just collapsed. First half they looked good. The offense was okay. You came out, you scored a touchdown on the first offensive drive, albeit with help from a long punt return. The offense couldn't convert a couple times when they're in Giants territory, settled for field goals. That was huge. So the Giants kind of played their bend but don't break. Titans were absolutely dominant in the first half. 4 sacks, 7 QB hits. They were just all over Daniel Jones, and it looked like they were going to have like another 9-sack game like they had against the Bengals in the playoffs last year. But things slowed down in the second half on defense as well, and they let up a couple of big plays. One to Sterling Shepard, blown coverage from Christian Fulton. He was caught, looking in the backfield. Shepard ran right by him. He missed the tackle to make matters worse. And then Barkley, 68-yard run, sets the Giants up for another touchdown. Big plays were the bane of their existence in week 1 and something they've got to be able to limit moving forward. Barkley, I mean, listen, I hate the phrase generational talent. We heard Gettleman call Barkley that. We hear, people call LeBron that in the NBA. He looked like a generational talent on Sunday. I mean, the guy looked unbelievable. There were 2 things I really wanted to see with Saquon this year. One of them was him avoiding injuries, right? That's a huge thing everybody talks about, injuries all the time. But the other thing, as a runner with him, he didn't look as strong or as decisive in the last couple of years when he's been healthy. Kind of like always looking to hit that home run, always looking, dancing around a little too much. And I still saw a little bit of that in week 1, but he looked more decisive. It looked like he picked the hole and he went. He made decisions and he went after them and he went full speed. He looked strong. He looked fast, obviously healthy. and he looked decisive. Everything I possibly could have wanted to see from Saquon in week 1, we saw that. And in fantasy, me personally, in one league, it was a spot I just had to take him. I held my nose, but I took him because he was just the best, most upside of any guy available. I feel a hell of a lot better about that pick after week 1.
Look, I honestly, of course, you know I'm a Steeler fan.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a Giants fan from New York originally, obviously. Always had love for them. But I'm going to tell you, I thought that this was such a big uptick for them, a boost for that, for that offense, for that team. The fact that their guy is back, showing them exactly why they brought him in. And I think it was huge. That was a big week for that franchise. And to get a win against such a good team like Tennessee was such a feather in their cap. But before we move on to this Viking-Packer game, I got to ask you, Derrick Henry, 82 yards, didn't get in the end zone. Do you expect more out of him this week?
I expect more out of him moving forward. Bills were very good against the run in week 1. They let up the fewest rushing yards of any team last week. So this is a tough matchup again for Derrick Henry. But I mean, it's all about the run blocking. The run blocking was atrocious last week for the Titans. Henry's not the type of guy who's going to be shifty in the back, behind the line of scrimmage and make guys miss. You've got to let him get that head of steam. So if he's getting hit at or behind the line of scrimmage constantly, he's not going to do much. He's got to get, that second or so where he gets his legs moving and churning and he gets up to his speed. Otherwise, he's not going to have much success. So the offensive line has got to do a better job of helping him avoid contact. Everything was after contact last week. They've got to clear the way for him a little bit better this week. And that'll happen as the year progresses. It may not happen this week because, again, the Bills, they'll be without Ed Oliver, but they've still got a very good defensive front. And they've got a bunch of guys on the defensive line that they can rotate in who would be starters on a lot of teams that are coming off their bench. So they're deep. They're deep, and it's going to be a tough one this week. So, honestly, I expect his first breakout to be in week 3. It might be tough sledding for one more game.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Orchard Park, the Bills, Monday night. It's a lot, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying the situation is going to be bigger than him and it's going to keep him out of it, but, you make good points. So we'll see. You're probably right. It's a tall order for him, again, because of that Bills.
Yeah, and then if it's, if the Bills offense goes off, you've got to start throwing the ball a lot. And Titans really stick to the run even when they're trailing. They've stuck to the run in the past. Last 4 matchups against the Bills, the first 3, Henry was stifled. He didn't really do much. Last year, $143 and 3 touchdowns. So maybe we'll see that again this week. Who knows?
Yeah. And finally, the final game that I want to talk about from last week, Packers, Minnesota, 23-7. Aaron Rodgers had a pick, couldn't get a rhythm. He for a guy that loves to throw to so many different receivers, it was like if you dropped the ball, he was not going back to you last week. He just wasn't going to do it. If you dropped the ball, he wouldn't look for you again. Not something that he normally does. Look, it's no secret I am not an Aaron Rodgers fan. Is he a good quarterback? He's an outstanding quarterback. I'm never going to call him a great quarterback because I don't think he's great. That takes a lot for me to put that label on you. I think he's an outstanding quarterback with great decisions. He's got a great arm. I'm starting to wonder if we're starting to see the unraveling of him. Now, I'm not saying he's about to hit the old man proverbial quarterback wall. I'm just saying, maybe should you have gone somewhere else? Should you have walked away from the game? Maybe. Sometimes I feel like he just can't get out of his own way. After all these years, you are still playing with a chip on your shoulder? Why? Why? What do you have to prove? You beat my Steelers and won a Super Bowl. He has some amazing passing records and quarterback accomplishments. What would you really have to prove? And why are you still playing and walking around with a chip on your shoulder? Why? For what?
Yeah. I mean, they showed him really angry on the sideline, and obviously Christian Watson dropping an easy 75-yard
That was
touchdown catch.
sad.
Yeah, but he went back to him after that because that was on the
He
first
did.
play of the game, and Watson had a couple catches after that. So he's got no choice. He can't really banish anybody because he needs all of
You
them.
don't have much. Yeah.
But getting back to the other thing, he was pissed on the sideline, understandably. Obviously, he's frustrated with his receivers, but you knew you were coming into this season. He probably, I can't imagine that he didn't know that Devontae Adams wasn't coming back. Even before he signed that deal, I think he knew that Adams was probably gone. So you came back into the situation knowing you're coming back to a team that does not invest in receivers. They're going to give you, I mean, they drafted Watson this year, they drafted Doubs, but I mean, they could have had, who are some guys that they missed out on the last couple of years? I think they had a shot at, I don't know, Justin Jefferson, I think was one of them, or they're whatever. You can name probably
Right.
a dozen guys they could have gotten in the last few years that they just didn't invest in the position when they clearly needed to.
Right.
Really? I mean, any struggles that he goes through and the receivers go through and this team as a whole goes through, he's got nobody to blame but himself. I think he
Right.
should have moved on after, this offseason and come to play for the Titans. That's what I think he should have done. No. They've got a similar situation anyway, but
Right.
I feel like he should have moved on. I think it was time. And he's a guy that wants better receivers, and the Packers just don't give them to him. They just haven't done it over the years. They always kind of find these guys like out of nowhere who turn out to be really good players, and he's got nobody to blame but himself. So any frustration he has, he should take it out on himself. He won't, but he should.
Sammy Watkins and the return of Randall Cobb. Look, Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb are not the answer. Now, for me, my biggest thing is this is a guy that everybody and their brother, including Stephen A. Smith and a ton of other commentators out there, put him on this gigantic pedestal as being one of the best to ever play the game. It's not that I don't necessarily agree. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks to play just because of his sheer numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, to me, a smart quarterback is going to know when to either walk away or maybe put yourself in a better position, Peyton Manning, to put yourself in a better position. If you're still that competitive and you have that kind of fire, why not put yourself in the best position? Him coming back to Green Bay was not putting himself in the best position.
Nope,
it wasn't.
Not even close. Nope.
Okay. Russell Wilson, 10 years in Seattle, the darling of this city, the Seattle's loving son. They treated like a redheaded stepchild. And he's like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to put myself in a better position.
Mm-hmm.
Guys don't want me here? Good. I'm out. Somebody's going to want me, and I'm going to turn somebody else's franchise around, and you're going to see what you missed out on. Why wasn't Aaron Rodgers, who has more time than them, not have done the same thing? To me, that's my disconnect with him. Like, yeah. I don't understand why he felt the need to stay there. What was keeping him there? What? Your pride?
Maybe they have dirty pictures on him. I have no clue. I was shocked. Yeah. I mean, I was shocked when I found out he was staying.
I know.
I couldn't believe it. Maybe they got pictures of him from his ayahuasca trip. I don't know. I don't know. But it made no sense. You're a star quarterback. Listen, he's a lock for the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
He's got his Super Bowl. He's put up unbelievable numbers, multiple MVPs. You're not going to call him the greatest quarterback of all time because after that first Super Bowl, he hasn't been able to get over the hump to win a second, and he's lost some really big games and played bad in them as well. But I think the Packers Super Bowl window is probably closed.
Oh God.
And I just don't understand why he stayed there. It was time for him to move on. He decided not to, and he's got nobody to blame but himself for anything bad that goes on. And I'm not writing them off. I still think they win that division. I told you week 1, I'm not that as high on the Vikings as everybody else is, but it's going to be a struggle. The Vikings are going to be better this year. I think the Bears are going to be a little more competitive than people are giving them credit for.
Sure.
And the Lions, obviously, I think the Lions are going to be way better than people thought they were going to be.
I do too.
Yeah, their defense can't stop, a nosebleed, but their
Right.
offense is going to keep them competitive. They've got some
Right.
really good players on that team, so it's going to be more difficult. I, it's going to be more difficult than it's been in years past, but I think they still get it done. It's going to be ugly though.
Yeah. All right. Some picks for this week. First, let's get our upset picks out of the way. I have two of them. I have, well, I guess you can call it an upset pick. I'm taking the Saints over the Bucks. I said it earlier in the show. I feel like the Saints defensively has had Tom Brady's number. They're gonna be in New Orleans. They're gonna be in the Caesar Superdome. I just, with what's going on in his personal life, and like I said, I don't think he necessarily is gonna hit that proverbial wall, but he's brushed up against it. And I think he's going to kind of get another hit of it today. And I think some reality is going to get smacked into him. That New Orleans defense, pretty good. Let's just say that they're Tampa's favored by 2.5. If I was going, I'm definitely taking this game. I'm not taking the points. I'm definitely taking the money line.
Mm-hmm.
And I am taking the Saints. The over/under is 43.5. I don't see this going over 43.5 points. I could be wrong, but my gut's just telling me that we're not going to see a bunch of airing out. Leonard Fournette, still trying to figure out what's going on with him. I know you and I both think that Jameis needs to air this ball out, but I still don't think that's going to go over 43.5 points. So I'm going to take the under on that. Give me one of your upsets for the week, Mike.
Mine, I have two as well because I figured we would both have the Saints, and that's what I had. I have the Saints. Right. They routinely have been a problem for Brady every time he's faced them since coming to the NFC South.
Right.
Great defense. They've got a better defense than the Bucks. They've got a better quarterback. The Saints do. I'm kidding. No, they don't. But still, I think Jameis is going to play well enough. And I agree with you. I think this is going to be kind of a messy game. We're going to see some turnovers.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a 21-20 game, something like that. Very tight, close. But I think the Saints pull it out. I would be okay taking the points for the Saints, and I would be okay taking money line either way because I think the Saints could win this one outright with the way that they've played the Bucks over the past couple of years. Another one I've got, since we will like to mix it up here.
Right.
I'm going with the Jaguars. Home dogs, 3.5 points.
Nice.
They beat the Colts once last year. Colts are not going to have Michael Pittman. They're not going to have Alec Pierce as well. Very thin at wide receiver. Their passing attack didn't look too hot in week one. You take those two guys out now, things are a lot more difficult. And meanwhile, the Jaguars, they should have won week one. They really coughed that one up. I like their receiving core. I think Christian Kirk is going to be better than people gave him credit for. I killed him during the offseason. Didn't think he was worth all that money. So far, week one, he proved he was. James Robinson, Travis Etienne, defense looks a little bit better this year. I just am not sold on the Colts at all. I'm not sold on any AFC South team after what I saw from the Titans in week one, let alone the Colts tying the Texans.
I know.
The Jaguars plus 3.5 all day, every day. This one's going to be, a couple of point difference, and I think the Jaguars could very well win it outright.
So I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. I actually went 11 for 5 last week. I was a little disappointed in myself. A little disappointed. I think it could have been a little bit better. But I think, obviously, there were some games in there that a lot of us were like, what in God's name is going on here? But so you and I both, I think, agree that the Lions are going to be a lot better than people are probably either expecting or even going to give them credit for. Now, right now, this game is even. So I guess you really can't call it an upset. But I do like the Lions to win this game, regardless of Carson Wentz's 313, 4 touchdowns last week, which honestly, I give him credit. The guy threw the ball 41 times. He actually looked better than I've seen him in quite some time. However, it's in Detroit. I like Detroit to win this game. What say you?
I like Detroit to win it too. DeAndre Swift might be a little limited. He's injured right now, and instead if he does play, he might be a little limited. That concerns me a bit. But I love the Lions' offense. I'm on Ross St. Brown is going to be a star. TJ Hawkinson, DJ Chark even looked pretty good
Right.
week 1. So they've got a lot of weapons in that offense, and I don't trust Washington's secondary, and I don't trust their front without Chase Young as well. I think the Lions are going to be able to move the ball on the ground. I think the passing attack's going to have its way. The Commanders are going to score points, so I'm taking the over on this. What was the over? What's the over under on
48
that?
and a half.
48 and a half. I would be comfortable taking the over in this one because the Lions can't stop anybody on defense.
Yes.
So the Commanders are going to score their points. But I agree with you. I think the Lions are going to win this game.
I'm 100% on board with you on the over. I would take the over at the 48 and a half.
Yeah.
Only because, like you said, both of these defenses are going to struggle a little bit, and I think both these offenses are just going to air it out as much as possible. I think we're going to see a lot of points in this game. This game kind of intrigues me as well. The Carolina Panthers taking on the Giants this afternoon. Baker Mayfield had 235 and 1 touchdown. Struggled last week. I know the numbers probably don't sound it, but he only threw the ball 27 times. He struggled against his old team. And I'll be honest with you. I think this game being in New York, you got a brand new coach that believes in his team. Saquon is back. This game is the Giants are only favored by 1 in this game. The over-under is 43 and a half. I really like the Giants to kind of smack the Panthers in the mouth, if you will. Now, I don't think it's going to be a bang-up, beat-up, but I think the Giants find a way to win. I would actually take those points because it's only 1, and I think the Giants will win. I think that game will at least be a 3 to 6 pointer. So give me the Giants at home, riding that high. Saquon's going to get the ball a lot. That's who I like. What say you?
I mean, if I had to bet on it, I would say I would take the Giants, and I would take them with the points. That's fine. I'd probably shoot for the under in that.
Okay.
But I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole, to be honest with you. I just don't know what to expect from the Giants. I don't know what to expect from the Panthers. The Giants looked like the Giants of the last 5 years in the first half last week, and then something just clicked in the second half. That's the kind of inconsistency we can expect to see from the Giants all year. And the Panthers, same thing. I mean, what exactly are we expecting from this offense, right? You know,
Right.
Is Baker Mayfield going to be better in week 2? Is Baker Mayfield going to be the mediocre quarterback he's been for much of his career? There are too many variables in this game for me to trust putting money on it. I will say, though, if I had a gun to my head, I would take the Giants just because I think they're a slightly better team all around than the Panthers are. But I don't like this game at all. It scares me.
All right. So Monday night, we have a doubleheader. You got Vikings, Eagles. But let's talk about this Titans-Bills game. Buffalo is favored by 10 right now. The over-under is 47 and a half. It's Josh Allen. It's Ryan Tannehill. It's, I'm expecting a good game. 10 is a lot.
Way too many. Egregious.
I really thought that, first of all, the other day it was 11, and I was like, wait, what? Today it's 10. I think that's a lot. I think Buffalo wins this game. I know, you're the Titans wire guy for USA Today, so give me your thoughts on this Monday night matchup.
I do have the Bills winning 31-27. I wrote up a prediction this morning, actually, as we do every week. But here's the thing with I would take the plus 9.5 all day, every day. Give me that. At least the odds I'm looking at, it's 9.5. It's typical.
Okay.
The Titans in the Mike Vrabel era, they lose to bad teams and they win against the best teams, at least during the regular season.
Right.
We've seen this time and time again. Buffalo has been perfect example. Buffalo happened to them the last 2 years. In 2020, the Titans were ravaged by COVID-19. That was the game that they had to move to Tuesday because of the outbreak the Titans were going. The Titans beat them 42-16. Last year, similar situation. Titans were without their top cornerback. They were I can't remember who else they were out with. I know they didn't have Christian Fulton. They were missing other guys. Nobody gave them a chance to win that game either. The Bills looked good. Boom. They go in there and they beat them 34-31. The Titans rise to the occasion against the better teams more often than not. I don't know how many times they can continue to keep that trend going, especially against a Bills team that looks even better than it was last year. I think at the very least the Titans keep this one close. I would not be as shocked as most people are going to be if the Titans win this game, because this is just what they do. They're such a weird team in that regard. It just, they always rise to the occasion in the regular season against the toughest of tough opponents.
Okay. I like it. All right. Now, got to talk about my Steelers against New England. Here's the thing that kind of, sometimes with points, it's, you always want to see something that's logical, if you will. Like we just talked about 10 points, 9.5. To me, that's just a lot. I thought that this game would be even. However, New England is favored in the Steeler-Patriot game. It's in Pittsburgh.
Why? Why are they favored? I don't understand that.
New
Why?
England is favored by 3. I thought
what
this
did
game would be
Vegas
even.
see from the Patriots in Week 1 that said, yeah, we should definitely favor them over the Steelers? Like, what?
That's where I'm at with it. So for me, the over/under is 40. I'm not touching that.
No.
I will, however, take the money line since it'll be an upset. I'll take the Steelers over the Patriots with that look. I think that there's obviously we've all seen the issues with the offensive line, but I think they figure out a little bit more to be able to get Najee Harris. Look, there's a reason he ran for over 1,000 yards last year. Let's call it what it is. And this is the same line. So I think they just Week 1 wasn't their week. And I think this week, this week they had time to reassess, readjust, make sure that they're going to be able to create these holes again for a guy that ran over 1,000 yards. I think they figure it out. I think they're going to, hopefully Mitchell made some adjustments as well, but I think they're going to lean more on the running game as well this week. I think they get it done against New England. I would take Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily know if I would take the points just because points freak me out anyway, but you take them on the money line, you put them in a parlay, it's a good, it's a good one for you because like I said, honestly, this game should have been a gimme, should have been an even, but what do you think?
Yeah, it probably the Steelers probably would have been favored if TJ Watt was playing. Obviously, he's not. He's going to miss some time. So that's probably why the Patriots are favored. Even still, I think obviously you don't replace a guy like TJ Watt ever.
Right.
But
right.
I think if any team can overcome an injury like that, it's the Steelers. They're just so smart defensively every year. They know what to do. They know how to play defense. And the Patriots, what is scary about their offense? Nothing. Mac Jones is not scary. Their running backs aren't scary. Their wide receivers sure as hell aren't scary. And their defense really, maybe it'll be as good as it's been in the last few years, but nothing on that defense scares me either. It's just the Patriots are just such a boring team. There's nothing, at least the Steelers, you've got a good young running back. You've got one of the, probably the best pass rusher in the league. You're the Steelers. The Patriots are just like, I have no desire to watch their games. Nothing excites me about that team. And I absolutely could see the Steelers going in and winning this game, but it's going to be ugly. It's going to be like a 13-10, 17-16, like just gross, just 40 minutes in between touchdowns, interceptions, just absolute offensive ineptitude. But if you like defense, you'll probably like this game. But who the hell likes defense, right? Who likes watching defense?
Right. Oh,
I want to see points.
I know. It's actually my favorite. I would rather watch defenses just murder quarterbacks.
I don't have the attention span for it. I really don't.
Oh, I love it. So for me, Captain Cam Hayward, I think, obviously with him being the captain and doing the things that he does for that team, it's a big lift for him. And I'm sure TJ was around. So, I'm sure their spirits are good. These guys are going to play the best to their ability, even without him. Like you said, Mike Tomlin is great at creating next man up. We don't worry about, who's going down. We're worrying about who's going to fill that gap. Next man up. We got to keep it moving, and, he's brought that mentality to that franchise and has done wonders with it. And they believe in it.
Yeah. So, and again, making it easier is the Patriots are just not good on offense. There's nothing, again, another team that I feel like just never invests big money in a playmaker at wide receiver. they'll spend $800 million on a pair of tight ends who are doing nothing, but
Right.
they won't go out and get that star receiver, which is just so odd. The Steelers are going to be fine without TJ Watt this week. I'm not going to say the same in future matchups,
Right.
but they're going to be fine this week without him. I don't see the Patriots winning this game at all.
Pat Fryermuth, I'm just going to say, so happy to see him really, even elevating from what he did last year. Very, Heath Miller-ish.
Yeah.
He's got some of those qualities. Very reliable, dependable tight end. Mitchell Trubisky needs to definitely make sure that he's working that in as well.
I'm down on the Steelers, but I will say this. They've got a lot of weapons on offense. I mean, I love the talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball. The problem, and I love their defense, the problem is the quarterback.
Right.
Can the quarterback take advantage of those weapons? I mean, you've got guys that are deep threats, short to intermediate game. You have a bunch of different ways you can use all these guys. Claypool, Pickens, Deontay Johnson. I love Calvin Austin as well as kind of like a gadget type guy. But can the quarterback maximize those guys? And I'm not sure that he can.
Right. We'll see. We'll see today. It's going to be a good one. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming in and hanging out with us. Thank you, Mr. Moraitis, for coming in and hanging out with us. Here's the thing. Mike and I are playing this week fantasy football.
Oh, that's right.
That's
right.
Good luck to you, my friend.
Oh man, I was out here giving out fantasy advice for free, and I forgot. I'm giving the information to the enemy.
I love it. It's okay, man, because I was an idiot and I left freaking Juju in, and I wanted to take him out, and I completely forgot. And by the time I got to my phone, it was too late, and I was so mad. I was like, not because he was hurt or anything, just because last week he got lucky. And we know how Patrick Mahomes is. He throws the ball around, and I was just afraid that Juju wasn't going to be in the mix this week, and he wasn't. And
it's going to be somebody every week for that team.
And it burned me.
Yeah, it's going to be somebody every week for that team. I stayed away from all Chiefs receivers this year. I just didn't touch them in any single league because I knew it was going to be an absolute cluster.
Yeah.
So, last week George Kittle got ruled out, and our waivers didn't go through until Wednesday. So I had to roll with no tight end. Still dropped 200 points and won. But
I saw that. Yeah.
But,
I know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, it's like I think I picked up Juju. It was purely sentimental reasons.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for the guy that he did the way he did in Pittsburgh. They weren't utilizing him properly, and I'm like, maybe they'll do that. And that's why I took the bite in week one. I was like, let's see. And it actually paid off, but I knew it wasn't going to happen a second week in a row.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to take him out, and I wish I would have. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I would suggest to people, if you get a good week out of a Chiefs receiver, bench him the next week. Chances are you're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. It's just the way it is. And Juju's been a little banged up this year. He's been on the injury report both weeks, knee week 1, shoulder this week. So hopefully he stays healthy because he's a good player, man. I mean, what we saw in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago with that big season he had, he's better. It's just how do you utilize him?
Exactly. All right, my man. Anything you want to say to the nice people before we get out of here?
Enjoy your Sunday. I don't have a game to cover today, so I get to cover I get wall-to-wall football from 1 o'clock until I pass out on the couch at around 11 or so. So I'm very excited, and I hope everybody enjoys your football Sunday as much as I'm going to. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming in, hanging out with us right down the line. Michael J. Mike Moraitis. Make sure you join us next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And as I say around here all the time, don't sweat small stuff. We're out of here. See ya.
Bye.